Sagittarius did not find this message by accident. There are moments in life we cannot quite name, but when they arrive, we know with certainty. Nothing will ever be the same again. It is not loud. There are no ringing bells, no blinding flashes of light. Just a very soft, very deep feeling. As if someone gently placed a warm hand on your shoulder and whispered, "Enough now, it is time." Have you noticed lately how time feels different? Days seem shorter, nights feel longer somehow. Old thoughts return without warning, not to hurt you again, but to be seen one last time under a different light. You have spent many years moving forward with the spirit of someone who never stops. That is the nature of Sagittarius, always carrying the fire of seeking, believing there is always something worth reaching for beyond the horizon. But perhaps no one ever told you this. There are seasons in life when stopping is not failure. It is the sign that you have traveled far enough to choose a different road. This cycle is not here to test you again. You have already endured enough. It arrives with a question that is simple and painfully honest. Do you still want to live by the old rhythm, or are you ready to live by your own? The universe does not force you. It simply narrows the distance between thought and action. What you once could postpone, you can no longer avoid now, not because you have grown weaker, but because you are finally strong enough to face it. Think back to a moment in the past when you knew, deep down, that change was necessary. Yet you stayed, out of responsibility, out of fear, out of the belief that if you left, everything would fall apart. And yet, you are still here. The world kept turning. That does not make you selfish. It proves something important. You were never meant to carry the entire sky on your shoulders. Some burdens were never yours. You simply grew used to holding them. Sagittarius carries a rare kind of instinctive wisdom, not the kind learned from books, but the kind forged through experience, through falling, through rising again in silence. You no longer need anyone to validate your worth. You have lived long enough to recognize what is real, what is false, what is worth holding on to, and what must finally be set down. This moment feels like very early morning when the city is still asleep. No traffic, no noise, only a thin, gentle light, just enough to see the road ahead more clearly than ever before. You are not being pushed to run. You are simply being invited to take a step, just one. But it is the step of someone who knows where they are going and why. If you feel both calm and quietly nervous inside, that is a good sign. It means you are standing in the right place. Real change never arrives in panic. It comes in the moment your breath slows, your back straightens, your gaze steadies, and you realize you no longer want to live to prove anything. You simply want to live in truth. You may not yet see the full shape of the new path, but you will feel it through a thought that returns again and again, through a sentence overheard by chance that lands directly in your chest, through an old memory that suddenly no longer hurts the way it once did. These are signs that you are stepping out of a version of yourself whose mission has already been fulfilled. And as you stand here, in this fragile, in-between space, allow yourself something deeply human. Believe that life did not bring you here to take more from you, but to return to you the right to live lighter, truer, and brighter. Take a deep breath. There is no need to rush. Stay with this feeling just a little longer. Because from this point forward, what arrives will no longer come to test you. It will come to answer everything you have patiently carried for so long. Some signals in life do not arrive like thunder. They come quietly, like a soft breeze brushing the back of your neck, sending a brief shiver through you without any clear reason why. Sagittarius, what is moving toward you does not need drama to be important. It may look completely ordinary, a phone call at a moment you were not expecting, a short message appearing among familiar notifications, a meeting that feels accidental, where eyes meet for only a second, yet leave a feeling that lingers far longer, or an offer that sounds unremarkable at first, but somehow slows your heartbeat, deepens it, as if something inside you recognizes its own path. Have you ever felt that before? That moment when the mind has not analyzed anything yet, but the body already understands. It is not excitement. It is not fear. It feels like standing in front of a door that is both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. You do not know what is inside, but you know this. If you never open it, you will always wonder what might have happened. Signals like this do not come often, and they are not here to test you. They come because you are more ready than you realize. Sagittarius has always been a sign of movement, of journeys, of arrows aimed forward. Yet the paradox is this: your greatest turning points often appear when you finally stop running, when you sit still long enough to hear your own heartbeat, when you stop searching with your eyes and begin sensing with your presence. The universe is subtle in how it speaks. It does not shout, it whispers, and only those who have been tired long enough learn how to listen to a whisper. You may ask yourself, why now? Why not earlier, when you had more energy, when life felt less complicated? But trust this: if it had arrived sooner, you would not have seen it. You would have dismissed it, questioned it, talked yourself out of it, telling yourself it was not the right time. Now is different. You have lived enough to know that what is truly meant for you does not need to be forced. It carries a strange gravity. It does not pull you. It invites you to step forward. This signal does not promise an easy road. It promises a real one. And somewhere along the way, you learned that you cannot have both. There are cycles in life that, if missed, do not return in the same form, not as punishment, but because you are no longer the same person. The universe respects growth. When you change, the way it speaks to you changes too. This signal may cause you to hesitate for just a few seconds, and those few seconds are where everything is decided. Not through pressure, but through honesty with yourself. You do not need all the answers. You only need to recognize this deep, familiar feeling. The feeling of coming home after a long journey, even though you have never stood there before. Pay attention to the small details in the days ahead. A sentence overheard by chance that keeps replaying in your mind. A thought that comes and goes, but leaves a clear imprint. A gentle but persistent pull. These are not coincidences. This is how the universe places the pieces exactly where they belong, so that one day, looking back, you understand. Everything had been arranged long ago. And if you feel your heart opening just a little, as if light is slipping into places you once kept protected, believe this: you were not led here to lose anything else. You are being invited into a new current, where alignment begins to appear, where answers no longer come through struggle, but through clarity. Do not rush, but do not turn away. Simply stay ready, like someone standing at the edge of a river, not jumping in, but not walking away either. Because there are moments when the water comes to your feet on its own. And when that happens, you will know. No confirmation needed, no grand sign required, just a deep, quiet calm. And from that calm, an entire new cycle begins to move. The past years did not pass without meaning. They left their mark on you in ways only someone who truly lived through them can understand. Sagittarius learned how to stand tall even while shaking on the inside. Learned how to say it's fine when everything felt overwhelming. Learned how to keep moving without waiting for anyone to turn back and really see you. You did not complain. You did not keep score. You did not ask for recognition. You simply did what needed to be done. Because if you didn't carry it, no one else would. You carried responsibilities that were never meant to be yours. Not because someone forced you, but because you couldn't bring yourself to let go. You saw others tired, others struggling, others lost. And you stepped forward before even asking whether you still had the strength. You gave so much: your time, your emotions, your patience, your faith. You gave until you sometimes forgot what it even felt like to receive. And even when your body was exhausted, when your spirit felt worn thin, you kept going. Because stopping back then felt more frightening than continuing. But there is something important you need to hear right now. The universe has never overlooked a single thing you did. Not one effort was forgotten. Not one silent tear fell without being seen. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to sacrifice more just to be worthy. That season of endurance has completed its purpose. And when a role is finished, it should not continue out of habit alone. Can you feel it? That familiar heaviness beginning to loosen, not gone all at once, but easing, like taking off a coat that was far too heavy, worn for so many years you forgot how light your body actually is beneath it. This is not weakness, this is release, a deep, honest lightness that only those who have carried too much for too long can recognize. Sagittarius often believed that pain was the price of results. But the universe does not operate through punishment. It operates through balance. When you give too much for too long, eventually the current must turn, not through apologies, not through loud validation, but through tangible outcomes, real, practical, unmistakable. The things you once struggled endlessly to reach now begin finding their way toward you. You will notice it in small but clear shifts. You no longer explain yourself as much. You no longer strain to be understood. Burdens fall away on their own because you are no longer meant to carry them. Those who once leaned on you will either rise on their own or quietly drift away. And that is not loss. It is the natural order being restored. There may be a moment when you feel empty, not from lack, but because, for the first time in a long while, you are no longer stretched tight by other people's responsibilities. Let that moment exist. Do not rush to fill it. Within that space, a quiet but powerful question will surface. If I am not here to carry everything, how do I want to live? That question does not need an answer yet. It only needs respect. The universe is repaying your energetic debt in ways you can actually touch, through ease instead of resistance, through timely support instead of silence, through doors opening without you knocking endlessly. This is not sudden magic. It is the natural result of walking the right path, even when that path was harsh. And as you stand here in the delicate moment between letting go and receiving, remember this. You were not born simply to endure. You were born to experience life in all its dimensions, light and heavy, giving and receiving, moving and resting. What is coming will not require more self-sacrifice. It arrives to meet you as the person you have become after all these years. Let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders drop. Nothing more is required right now. Just allow yourself to remain in this feeling a little longer, because from this point forward, the current begins to shift. You will no longer have to prove yourself through suffering. You will begin to receive through the true value you quietly built over a very long journey. Your breathing is no longer as rushed as it once was. After years of pushing, holding, enduring, your body and your mind are finally recognizing a signal you haven't allowed yourself to feel in a long time. It is the feeling of no longer forcing life forward with sheer effort. The feeling of the current beginning to find its own way. Sagittarius. Money and opportunities do not arrive like magic falling from the sky. They come like snow melting after a long winter, quietly, without spectacle, but undeniably real. You begin to notice things that were once frozen starting to move again, not because you are doing something new, but because you stopped resisting the natural rhythm of life. At first, you might doubt it, because you were conditioned to believe that only struggle could be trusted, that if something came easily, it must be temporary or undeserved. But look closer. The flow of money softens and steadies. A forgotten amount is suddenly mentioned again. An opportunity that once seemed unavailable reopens in a different form. A door related to work, contracts, or collaboration opens not because you begged for it, but because someone senses a deep stability in your energy. That stability does not come from numbers in a bank account. It comes from the fact that you no longer shake when you think about the future. Sagittarius has always seen money as a tool to keep moving forward, but this season brings a different understanding. Money is no longer something you chase. It becomes a natural result of balance being restored. When you stop compensating emotional emptiness with excessive effort, your energy becomes naturally attractive. People feel trust when they are near you, and in a world built on exchange, trust is the most valuable currency of all. Unexpected support may appear, not always as cash. Sometimes it comes as someone willing to vouch for you, a well-timed introduction, a hand reaching out when you're no longer asking. What matters most is this: you no longer feel ashamed to receive. You understand that receiving is not weakness. Receiving is part of the cycle of life. You have given enough to finally allow the flow to return. Think back to earlier times when you stood before opportunities filled with doubt, questioning whether you were worthy, fearing that everything might collapse at any moment. Now, those questions soften, not because you believe everything will be perfect, but because you trust that whatever happens, you are steady enough to continue. That quiet confidence is what allows doors to open wider, stay open longer, and hold more weight. The universe does not reward like a game of chance. It recalibrates the scales. When you have carried too much on one side, the other side must rise. This shift may surprise you because it arrives through ordinary moments, a casual conversation leading to a new direction, an idea once ignored finally being heard, a financial decision made from clarity instead of fear. You stop chasing numbers. You choose sustainability. There is a strange beauty in this phase, the beauty of abundance without display. You no longer need to prove you are moving forward. You simply feel the ground beneath you becoming more solid with each step. Spending no longer carries guilt. Investing no longer comes with trembling hands. Turning down what doesn't align no longer brings the fear that nothing else will ever come. This is a deep maturity in your relationship with the material world. And in the moment you realize that money no longer controls your emotions, another door quietly opens inside you, the door to real freedom. Freedom is not having more. Freedom is no longer being bound by the fear of not having enough. As that fear settles, you begin to hear subtler invitations from life. Opportunities that offer not just gain, but meaning. Choices that feel aligned, that feel right in your body. Let this current continue. There is no need to rush and grab, no need to fear loss. Simply keep walking with the calm awareness you now carry. Because when balance returns to its rightful place, what comes next will not only support your life, it will nourish the person you are becoming. And in that gentle light, you will begin to see that you are not merely being helped, you are being guided toward a deeper kind of abundance. One where value and meaning walk together. One where each step forward carries a sense of safety, quiet, and lasting peace. As you begin to feel the ground beneath your feet grow steadier, as material worries loosen their grip on your inner world, a very different movement quietly begins to surface. Not loud, not demanding. Just a feeling that is hard to name. Like walking through a crowd and suddenly feeling your heart soften because of something familiar, even before your mind understands why. Sagittarius. A thread is gently vibrating, and when it vibrates, it means that somewhere on the other end, someone is thinking about you more than you realize. You may not know exactly who it is, but you will feel the presence in your own way. An old memory returns unexpectedly, no longer painful, only warm. A name you have not thought of in a long time suddenly becomes clear again. Or perhaps it is someone entirely new, someone you have never met before. Yet when you speak, it feels as if two souls once stood in the same place a very long time ago. Connections like this do not require many words. They do not arrive to disrupt your life. They arrive to remind you who you are when you are no longer on guard. In the past, you loved from an empty space. Not because you were weak, but because you gave so much without receiving in return. You hoped others would see your effort, would stay because you tried so hard. That season has ended, not through pain, but through a deep understanding. You now know that love is not a place to compensate for old lack. It is a place where two whole people choose to stand beside each other. The Sagittarius you are now carries a different energy. You no longer rush into connection just to fill silence. You no longer try to prove that you are worthy of love. You choose carefully, not cold, but clear, not closed, but conscious. You listen to your emotions without letting them rule you. And because of that, the connections approaching you now carry a completely different quality. They do not pull you, they walk with you. If it is someone from the past, their return feels different this time. No old loops, no vague promises, only truth. Two people seeing each other from a more mature place, aware of how much has changed. And whatever choice is made, it no longer carries guilt. You do not cling, you do not run. You are calm enough to see what still belongs, and what has completed its role. If it is a new soul, you will recognize it in the smallest ways. Conversation that flows without effort. Silence that does not feel uncomfortable. A gentle sense of ease, as if you do not need to perform at all. You get to be yourself, unedited, unexpanded, undiminished. And in that feeling, you understand something important. This connection is not here to test you. It is here to reflect the person you have become after all these years. Most of all, this time you are not trading peace for closeness. You do not step into any bond that asks you to shrink, to go quiet, to sacrifice boundaries you worked so hard to build. You have learned this. Real love does not exhaust you. It steadies you. It does not make you question your worth. It reminds you that you have always been enough. This connection may not need a label yet. There is no rush to define it. Just allow it to exist. Slowly, honestly. Sometimes, the most important connections are not meant to stay forever. They arrive to awaken something beautiful within you, something you forgot during years of giving, without saving any for yourself. And when you notice that your heart can open without trembling, when you realize you can care deeply without losing clarity, you will know you have entered a different rhythm of living. A rhythm where connection is no longer a burden, but a resonance. Where you are not searching for a half to complete you, but meeting another whole soul to illuminate each other. Let that thread continue to vibrate in its own time. No pulling, no control, just presence. Because when you learn to love from fullness, what comes into your life does not arrive to take from you. It arrives to expand with you. And in that gentle expansion, you will feel something deeper forming, as if life itself is preparing to lead you further, not only into connection with others, but into a more honest, more intimate connection with yourself. When connections begin to settle into their rightful places, something very natural happens, without effort, without explanation. What no longer fits starts to step back, not with noise, not with conflict or collapse, just a gentle kind of silence. Sagittarius. You can feel this in the way you no longer force awkward conversations, no longer feel the need to explain yourself so much, no longer carry guilt for not responding right away. The ties that once pulled you backward begin to loosen on their own, as if they too understand their role has been completed. In the past, whenever something left, you searched for fault, in your words, in your actions, in yourself. But now, it feels different. There is no self-blame, no silent clinging, only a soft recognition that some relationships, some situations, some habits once helped you survive a certain season, but no longer belong on the road ahead. That does not make them wrong. It simply means you have changed. Sagittarius carries an instinct to expand. You are always drawn toward farther horizons, higher ground, wider space. Yet there were times when fear of loss led you to hold on to what made you smaller. You learned to make room, lower your voice, wait. Now, as you stand upright in your own truth, anything that required you to bend in order to keep it can no longer stay still. It withdraws, not from resentment, but from lack of resonance. You will notice this happening quietly, a relationship fading without a goodbye conversation, an environment no longer pulling you back, even though it once felt familiar, an old habit losing its grip without resistance. There is no emptiness, only space opening, wide enough for a deeper breath. This is purification, a mature kind of cleansing, not destructive, not painful, simply removing what has expired in your inner life. Most importantly, you no longer accept fragments. You no longer receive half effort and convince yourself it is enough. You no longer stay in situations that ask you to sacrifice your clarity. You understand now, respect does not arrive in pieces. It is either present in full or not present at all. This understanding does not make you harsh. It makes you honest with yourself. Some people may not understand this change. They may call you distant, colder, different, but only you know. Your heart is not closed. You have simply closed the doors that lead to depletion. Your heart remains open, but only to what is aligned. And that is a profound step in the maturation of Sagittarius. You begin to realize that not everything leaving creates a void. Some departures create space. Space for new light. Space for deeper connections. Space for you to return to your true rhythm. In that space, you no longer rush to fill it. You allow yourself to stay with the quiet, to listen, to feel, to trust. Purification is not loss. Purification is elevation. When your frequency changes, what no longer matches naturally falls out of orbit. You do not have to push anything away. You only have to keep living in alignment with your truth. The universe handles the rest, gently, precisely. Looking back, you will see you were never alone in this process. You are simply no longer surrounded by what drained you. In its place, clarity, a stillness with depth, a sense of safety that feels new, almost unfamiliar, like standing inside a room that has just been cleared after years of being filled with old things. It does not need decoration yet. It only needs to exist. And within that simplicity, you will sense another movement forming, a subtler invitation, a direction that is quiet, yet bright, as if, after everything unnecessary has stepped away, life is gently placing something new into your hands, not to test you, but to walk with you. And you, with a heart that has been cleansed, will recognize it the moment it arrives. In the stillness that has just been cleared, as you stand without being pulled backward anymore, a very soft sound begins to appear. Not noise, not a command, just a quiet vibration. So familiar, you recognize it before you even name it. Sagittarius. This is the moment the universe is calling you, not to push you, but to confirm you, not to test you, but to invite you forward as the person you have already become. The real question is not what will happen next. The question is how you choose to answer, with fear or with faith. Fear arrives quickly. It is the reflex of years spent protecting yourself. It reminds you of plans that fell apart, of promises that were never kept, of moments when you tried with everything you had and still did not arrive. Faith is different. It comes more slowly, deeper, quieter. It does not deny the past. It gently sets the past down and whispers, "I have learned enough now." What is coming may surprise you because it does not follow the old script. Plans you once mapped out may need to shift. What you believed was the only road may turn in a new direction. But notice what happens in your chest. Not confusion, relief. Like realizing you no longer have to hold together a structure that has grown too tight. This change does not take away your foundation. It places everything back where it can finally breathe. Sagittarius once believed you had to understand everything before you could move, but your maturity now allows something else. Moving without controlling every detail, moving with clarity about your values, not certainty about every outcome. You have learned this. Life does not reward those who calculate the best. It walks beside those who are most honest with themselves. You will notice that the moment of decision is quieter than you expected. It does not arrive in drama. It arrives on an ordinary morning when you wake up and simply know you cannot return to the old way of living. It shows up in a response you give naturally, without overthinking. It shows up when you say yes to what opens your heart, and no to what makes you shrink, even if you once accepted it. What unfolds from here carries a different quality of life. Clearer, lighter, more worthy. Not because life becomes easy, but because you stop fighting yourself. You no longer ask if you are on the right path. You feel it in how your body relaxes, in how your mind releases old loops of worry, in how you begin to be fully present with what is already here. There is a quiet beauty in arriving at your life right on time. Not early, not late. You arrived carrying everything you lived through. Loss was not erased. It became wisdom. Stumbles were not denied, they became strength. And now, when the universe speaks your name, it is not the voice of pressure, it is the voice of recognition. Allow yourself to answer with faith. Not blind faith, but faith shaped by time. Faith that you can adapt, that you are brave enough to choose, clear enough to release what no longer fits, gentle enough to receive what arrives with gratitude, without suspicion. When you walk with that faith, the world begins to respond. The right people become clearer, aligned opportunities draw closer, decisions that once confused you grow simpler. Not because life is less complex, but because you are more clear. And in that clarity, you discover something deeply human. You do not need to become someone else to deserve a good life. You only need to be yourself, the version that has matured, been purified, and is ready. Destiny has spoken in a very gentle way, not loud, not dramatic, just enough for you to hear if you are listening. Sagittarius was never born to miss the moment. You were born to arrive on time, with an open heart and a steady gaze. And when you answer this call with faith, you are not just entering a new phase, you are stepping into the very life you have been quietly preparing to live all along.